You're listening to the Jules and Coffee Hour, sharing the stories of Blizzard gamers around the world. Pull up a chair. We're glad you're here.
Welcome to episode 26 of the Jules and Coffee Hour. I'm Jules.
And I'm Coffee, and that is Workhorse.
Hey.
That way.
Hey.
I can't point the wrong way. Workhorse is here, you guys. We have a special guest, and we are beyond stoked to have him with us. This show wouldn't even be a thing if it wasn't for this guy right up here. Right there. Yeah. Because he was the one who he came up with the idea that the two of us should create a podcast. And 26 episodes later, Workhorse himself is here.
Yep.
And here's the thing. This is a man who has come up with all kinds of wonderful ideas, including Heroeshearth Entertainment, Heroeshearth Esports, Mastermind of all things Heroeshearth, and a whole bunch of other companies that you may not know. The things that he's done. And the reason why he's here is to talk about it. We want to talk to someone like Workhorse, who has been an entrepreneur for his entire career pretty much, and to talk about like what it's like. So, okay. Coffee, you had a question like last week in last week's episode to start it, and I think you should ask it because it was perfect.
The one thing I just want to say, I met Workhorse actually about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago now, because we met for the first time at E3, and E3 is coming up. Is it like this week or next week or something?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, coming up.
But we met and we had a drink and we were just chatting, and you mentioned you brought up at least two companies you had started in just our first conversation, and I thought to myself, holy shit,
God.
this guy has his hand in so many different things. He's like, he seems relatively young, successful, a renaissance man, if you will. You know, he's kind of doing it all, and I guess so. My first question is, how many companies have you started? You could include Heroeshearth, I suppose.
Like
He's counting.
13 or 14?
Really? That many? I didn't even know that many.
What? Yeah. Holy shit! Are you serious?
Yeah.
Where did it all begin? Like, what was the very first thing you started?
Started a lawn mowing business.
How old were you?
I was 13.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay, so
rallied together my homies to mow lawns. It was not particularly successful. It only lasted for a summer, but it was a good first pass at how to organize other people. I will say that 13, 14-year-old kids herding cats, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was kind of I like to work hard, but I was definitely, I was gonna say I was lazy, but I wasn't. I was just kind of chubby. So like mowing lawns in the hot summer day didn't appeal to me super hard. So I decided to organize my friends to mow lawns, and I was just the guy who made it happen.
You were the one that collected all of their money, basically.
Yeah, wow. but you know, it was a fun little business. And then after that, I started a business where I built websites for old folks and then taught them how to run them after they got all set up.
Oh wow,
that's a good one.
Yeah, that one was called Ion Fusion Networks.
Wow.
What a name.
I was like 14. That was the summer after that one.
I feel like that's such an attractive name to old people too. Like they'll hear that and they'll get kind of super excited about. Yeah, the future.
It's really stupid. But those are cool things to learn. Yeah.
How did that work out for you though? Like what happened with that business? Did you see some success with it?
Well, the lawn mowing business, I wanted to save enough money to purchase this new software called Flash that no one had ever heard of. And because it was like $800 at the time or something. So in the course of the summer, I was able to make enough money to buy Flash, which I then used the next summer to do the website business.
Oh my gosh! So 14.
One thing leads to another.
To earn at least $800
It was cool. My folks were
That's
like,
crazy.
"Do we need to file a 1090 or a W9 for this?" I don't know. But yeah, that was cool. That's how it
Wow.
started. And they were, I mean, I was a kid, so not like anything amazing really happened, but it taught me some fundamentals that really were important. And I had some cool mentors in my family that thought it was really funny that I was doing this stuff. And so they pushed me and encouraged me to explore the basics. And by the time I was a senior in high school, that's when shit got real. And I started a record label. And that was when things really started to go bananas.
So tell us about the record label, because really that is still part of your life.
Yeah. So the record label was lucky, happenstance. Really, I grew up in a community where there were just a whole pile of really talented, super cool musicians. Just kids that were all, 16, 17, 18, 19, didn't just had these cool bands. It was a time in where I live where like music education was really really great. And so there were all these awesome bands that were making great music, and I was sort of like the one dude who was a part of the scene that was honestly nerdy enough to be like, how does one collect mechanical royalties? Like how do we manufacture these CDs? How do I book shows properly? And that evolved into organizing rosters and like signing people with contracts and lawyers and stuff, and then sending people on the road and making records and selling records and creating budgets. And that I did that pretty hardcore my senior year of high school up until I was about 25 when that started to slow down. And in that time, bands got big, bands got popular, got to work with some really cool people. We were picked up by Warner Music when I was 23, and then or 22, and they distributed all of our records and helped foster everything. That actually was a pretty terrible experience working with them. So my contract with them was 3 years long, and I got all my records back, and then reformatted the record label in the era of pay what you want / free music time. And when I did that, things started to go really
Napster.
well, this was post Napster. This was like the aftermath where people didn't know what the hell happened. And then Radiohead came out with that record that was like, pay what you want. And I was like, cool, I'll just build a whole business based upon that idea. And it worked. And to this day, I put out cool records. Very few now. I only work with one artist at this point. Too many other plates spinning to really be good at running a record label.
So were you
Yeah.
doing this full time, or were you also going to school at the time?
I went to college, yeah. And while I was doing that, I was doing the band and label thing.
Wow. Oh my
co-
gosh.
I was
Because you kind of glossed over it, but you were in a band and you were managing a record label at the same time.
yeah.
And going to school.
I was a band dude. That was the thing
And going to college.
that I did. I loved to tour. I loved to tour. That was like the thing that I was like, at that time in my life, I was like, all I want to do is get in a van and drive and meet people. And it was, time functioned really strangely when you're on tour, because it seemed like 1 week was really a month and 1 month was a year. Like you age very quickly, and like the relationships and bonds you form are incredible. So that was I couldn't get enough of it, because I got to see a lot of the country. I got to see some of Europe with the band stuff, and it was really cool. And,
Yeah, and in Liquid Color in the chat room asks, what was your band? What was the name of your band?
I don't know. Should I even say? I don't know. Is it better to keep it secret?
I mean, it's up to you. People will definitely Google this if you say this right now. 100%.
We were called One for the Team. We were just not popular, really. Don't worry about it. But the baby-faced little guy in the front was in fact me. So there you go. Enjoy.
Were you what instruments did you play, or were you?
I was the guitar player, singer, songwriter guy. I did.
Oh yeah.
It's very comical. It was a particular time in music, so it aged really bad. so there you go. Enjoy me expressing my feelings at the age of 21, 22. So.
Do you think that you and I could just get together sometime and just jam, and just make songs together?
Yeah. Little known secret, that little ad that I posted yesterday for the fight night?
Oh yeah.
the guitar riffs in the background.
Is that
was me.
you?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That was
I was betting
that
that
was
you.
rocking, dude. That was
It very-
intense.
It was very funny. I had a good time with that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much that, I mean, because now people know you related to Heroes Hearth and the world that we're in right now. But do you write music still? Like, do you get inspired by anything? Just sit down and write some lyrics or put together some beats?
I wrote the Minnesota Wild asked me to do like a version of their fight song and like contemporize their fight song. I did that actually just a little bit ago, but other than that, I have not really written or put out music in a while. I've been real busy building all the Heroes Hearth stuff, and so just by the time like 7 or 8 p.m. rolls around, my creative juices are just gone. You know, like I don't have picking up a guitar and writing music is not on the list at that point. I just want to watch anime.
So what came after the band and record label, even though the record label kind of continued? What was the next business after that?
So the label was cool. Like I said, so much luck. Because it just got to, I was a part of this community of like really amazing people. So I got to like work with all these really smart, interesting, funny people that were incredibly capable. All of us were all kids, just making it up, trying our best to make things function properly. And with all of their help with this, you know, we were able to sort of like make a little bit for all of us, could pay rent and like make ends meet. But out of it sprung a bunch of other little businesses. So the record label, like one of the first things I learned about is that most artists don't make money off of album sales, really. Well, especially now. I mean, now it's all streaming sales, which is basically the same thing as album sales. But a lot of it's off of publishing. So that was something that was interesting to learn. And I started a licensing business, which still exists today, that you can, you know, we have a catalog of really cool music that we license for TV shows and commercials and video games. We have a Nintendo commercial coming up that we have music in, like that kind of stuff. That's still around. It's a great company run by an awesome human being that I've worked with for a very long time. It's been a good little business. And while that happened, and like to sort of handle all of our licensing things that were like not exactly record label related, but like also part of it, we were able to take on more clients and do all that. So that company was, you know, built 11 years ago and still ticks.
Wow.
At the same time, we started up a PR firm to handle all of the press work that we would do for the label, but also other bands that we thought were cool that weren't a part of the label. That lasted until about 3 years ago when that finally folded. It was a good business. PR is hard. Oh my gosh. Publicity work, so hard. But probably the coolest company that came out of it was a print shop. So there's kind of a story behind this one, which is funny to everyone but me maybe. Where Breakfast Princess, my amazing wife to be, was studying in Japan, and so for like a 6-month span. And during this 6-month span, I was doing a lot of label work. And one night, I got an email from our merch makers and distributors, and they jacked up the price on some American Apparel stuff we wanted to make. And I happened to have been drinking. It was like a Wednesday, and so I got mad.
Turn
and
up
I was
on a
like,
Wednesday.
and I was
Getting
like,
full turn.
I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna start my own print shop. And so I bought a ton of shit on the internet and had it all shipped to my house and started a print shop, which now 8 years later is awesome and employs an amazing staff of women that all crush it, and it still exists. And it's like there's a little shop south of where I live that they just dominate, and it's awesome.
That print shop makes all Heroes Hearth
Makes all of our merch.
Yeah, with the exception of the jerseys, all of the Heroes Hearth merches, including the beautiful Jules and Coffee t-shirt, which is laying above my head right now, which you guys can pre-order, is going to be made by that amazing print shop that you own.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that business is really cool. It's been an honor to help and watch that grow. I mean, like a big part of my whole thing, and this is something that Jules and I've talked about 900,000 times, is my real talent in my whole life that I've been able to really identify is seeing in other people how great they are, and even if they don't know it, and see their gifts and talents. And then I kind of just go, hey, what's your dream? That's your dream? Cool. Here's some resources. Let's see if you can do it. And that's how all these businesses started. Like while the print shop was taking off, we needed a bigger space. We moved into downtown of my hometown, and we had extra space in this new space. And I started up a comic book store in that extra space because I wanted to buy Magic the Gathering singles and booster boxes for cheap, really. And people started showing up, and it got so big that we actually pushed the print shop out and had to move the print shop, and we had to blow up a bunch of walls in this building. And a buddy of mine, whose dream was to run a card shop, took over and started running the card shop. I no longer own that shop. I ended up selling it a couple years back to fund Heroeshearth, and that was an amazing journey. Working at a card shop for 5 years, selling comics and cardboard cards. It was great. And anyway, I'm rambling now, so I don't know if we've got.
No, you're not. You're giving us exactly what we want right now.
Yeah, there's no rambling.
I had no idea that Heroeshearth was funded from the comic book shop.
Comic book store, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of
And
awesome.
you know, the amazing thing about all of it is that it doesn't stop. Like, you know, not to give away any trade secrets or anything like that, but if you sit down and you talk to Workhorse for just a little bit of time, you find out he's got about 7 different ideas sitting in the hopper at any given time, because that's just how his brain works. And all the things that have come up with Heroeshearth Entertainment, all of the ideas. Fight Night was a big one. Like, it was one of those moments. I remember you coming up with Fight Night and being like, guys, I have this idea and I can't get it out of my head. And now it lives and breathes in 2 different gaming spheres.
For now. Only 2.
Wink, wink.
Oh my.
And so the things that, I mean, obviously you've been running around different circles, you know, mainly entertainment, and, you know, but you've done product, you've done virtual product, you've done streaming, all of that kind of thing. Is there something in there, like, do you find that there's stuff that you've done that you were like, I wish that I had done this instead, or I wish I'd gotten into this market at that time and I just didn't?
Well, there's always opportunities missed. I've definitely had some pretty great opportunities put in front of me that I wish I had taken in hindsight, but couldn't due to obligations I had already committed to. I'm definitely one of those dudes that, like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So I was never comfortable bailing to pursue some of those things. But I mean, I had a chance to work with some pretty big musicians that I didn't get to that got massive. That was pretty cool and sad, but also cool for them. Those are probably sort of my, like, what ifs and missed chances. For the most part, I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, like, no jokes aside, if there's something that I'm into, I usually just go for it. Like, I really want to get involved as fast as possible and become like an authority in terms of how this works and why does it work and what can I do to make it better or connect people. I think that, you know what, actually, to answer your question, connecting people, that was something that I didn't realize was my whole thing until probably too late. Like, the record label when I was younger was great because it was putting out cool music, and that's what I thought I was doing, was putting out cool music. But in hindsight, that's not at all what I was doing. I mean, yes, I was doing that, but, like, it was about the community that was forming in the scene around the musicians, and the musicians working together, and the musicians finding cool new music to work on and cool projects to do. It was more about all of the people finding each other and building cool shit, and me just giving them, like, a little gentle push. You know, I guess I answered your question in the midst of me saying that I didn't have an answer, but I guess I have an answer, and that really is it. And it wasn't until, like, 5 or 6 years ago when I started the Magic the Gathering social network that really kicked off. That came out of the comic book store, and that was seeing people find each other and becoming best friends right in front of me. Holy shit, that's a feel. Like, it really is. And once you see something like that and social groups forming and bonds and, like, people just having a great time, you want to figure out how to facilitate that for more people. And that's kind of where Heroeshearth started in the first place. And it sounds cheeseball, because it is, but that's really where it all came from.
So you had all this code and foundation for this Magic the Gathering social network, and that sort of evolved into Heroes Hearth, right?
Yeah. Back in the day, I actually sponsored Pro Tour players for Magic, which was really funny. But they would like wear the T-shirt of like the comic book store we were doing. Yeah. So at Mead Hall, because I was seeing all these cool social groups forming, we started like a small, like Web 2.0 shitty social network that was like meant to be like a hyped up Facebook group for all of our customers. And then it just kind of like people started to like stack and join and come in from other circles, and then eventually to the point where we had enough members where I was like, hey, cool, maybe I'll hire a coder who has later become a homie to see if we can build something cool. And that later, like 7 iterations later, became Heroes Hearth 1.0, which before it was Heroes Hearth was the Nexus GG, if anyone knows that one. We were a site for like a month, and then we took it down because we hated it and rebranded and redid everything.
BP says you owned a game store. Is that the same thing as the comic store? Or is that like is that a totally different store?
Game store and comic book store, same thing.
Oh, okay.
We sold games, comics, and Magic cards. That's what we did. We held like F&Ms and stuff.
It's insane how much you've been able to accomplish, and you are 34.
Yes.
You are 34 years old.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but
that's incredible is what it is. So the question that I want to ask you, and I and this is kind of aimed for the audience to help them, is when have you had massive fear about starting something new?
Oh, all the time. What? No. I mean,
well, what pushes you over the edge to do it? Because a lot of us will never get to that point, never push ourselves over the edge to actually attempt the thing. And that's what I want your help with for the audience, is how you got yourself over that fear to just do the thing and try the thing even when you had no idea what you were doing.
I made a rule for myself that if I had an idea, if I liked it 6 months later, I'd do it. So
that's a really cool rule, actually.
And sometimes it nipped me in the butt, but it was, for the most part, was just like, if I like it that much and I'm still thinking about it and I still wish I was doing it, okay, I probably should do it. And that gave me permission to just like put down the blockers, right? Gave me permission to allow myself to do it, because if I still think it's a good idea, maybe my friends will think it's good. I mean, also friends. Oh shoot, you got to ask your friends if this is a good idea or not. I've brought a lot of ideas to Jules where I'm like, okay, what if we? And then she's just like, dude, just stop it. And like,
whoa. Let's get into that a little bit. Jules, what was the last idea that he brought up to you that you were like, no?
Was it the hot potato app?
It was the hot potato app.
Nobody
liked that one.
No one liked that one. I loved it. I think Coffee would love it, actually. But
wait,
all right. Are you gonna make
this on
you
a
can
stream?
Tell your idea.
Are we pitching on stream right now?
Yeah, I mean, you can pitch it right now and tell me I'm
Coffee.
wrong, and I could, I'll owe you like royalties on the idea.
All right, pitch it to me like I'm gonna fund it or something.
Okay.
Like you need funding.
Okay, Coffee. Imagine a world. Okay.
In a
world where you can only communicate by sending potatoes. Okay. Different types of potatoes. Each potato has a different value and different rarity. There's no text involved. I say once a day I can send a potato to you, Coffee. You get the table. You get the potato from everyone who's in your friend network. They sometimes send you potatoes. They sometimes don't, because you can only send out one a day. Once you get enough potatoes, depending on the types of potatoes, you can make potato dishes. So like baked potato. Anyway, eventually the person who is leading the community in type of potato dishes and potato experience becomes the hot potato. It's a social networking tool. You can only send one potato a day. You basically open up a loot box every morning and you get a type of potato that has a different drop rate. And you're like, fuck, Coffee's having a great week. I'm going to send him an Idaho potato.
Wow.
And I send you a potato and you're like, shit, I can use this for my baked potato dish. or my loaded potato dish.
I'm gonna have to stop you right there because I think we should take this to DMs. We need to talk. We need to talk serious about this. I don't think we should. I don't think we should be broadcasting multi-million-dollar ideas.
So the idea is to collect potatoes, and you kind of on a potato campaign, and you create with the potatoes, and people. There's a whole. You could do a whole like hierarchy of like voting. Like this person's potato creation is the best potato, and then they become the hot potato, and then like it's this whole. The thing is that there is a finite number of potatoes in the market at any given moment.
BP says, "Workhorse, please."
BP hates
Not in
this
front of
idea
my
with
friends.
a burning passion. And
Not in front of my
when
friends.
he told us to Brasky and I, Brasky is his partner in Heroes Hearth. If you don't know Brasky, which you should, he's amazing. We all just went, no, no.
The thing
We
is,
love you, but
so-
no.
So here's my advice when it comes to dumb ideas. So back in the day when I used to write music in a band, I would struggle out of the gates initially, and I ran into this a lot of time with songwriters, creatives in general, really, that they would self-filter before they'd create.
Yeah.
So like, like they'd think of like a riff, and they'd be like, "No, that's stupid." Well, okay, well you didn't create it yet. You know, you might as well put it down. You might as well listen to it later and see if you like it, because you never know. In 6 weeks, that riff could be fucking sweet.
Yes.
Self-filtering before actually doing the thing really hampers and creates a lot of writer's block. As a result, I kind of think that when it comes to business ideas or just ideas, fuck it, just let her rip. And if they're
Yes.
good, they'll be good later. If they're bad and funny. You know, like the worst case scenario is you laugh at me about my dumb potato app, which I know is genius, but you know, hey, at least thought of it and put it out there.
Because really, truly, and this is actually serious, is that for every great idea, there's probably about 7 or 8 awful ones.
I think you
Oh,
got
yeah.
a couple zeros to the bad
Okay,
ones.
add
but-
I'm being kind, but you know, and or that it has like a, you know, the bare iteration, and then it has evolved so far away from where you started from, but everything had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
What kind
And
of a?
that
Sorry, you finish your thought, Jules. I just have another question.
I was just gonna say it's pretty incredible. You know, I know that for someone like me, I suffer from the challenges of anxiety and the creative block that it can come from, and you know, the fear of just not pushing yourself over the edge with an idea. I literally this weekend just sat down and dumped out a bunch of ideas that have been sitting in my head on a piece of paper, and I just put them there. And whether or not these become reality is to be seen, but
Mhm.
I put them there. And you know, and it just so happened that I had spent an evening with Workhorse prior to this where we were brainstorming about a whole bunch of stuff. And it just, you know, when you talk about friends and the ability to just bounce things off of friends, it's crucial. It is. Okay.
You
coffee go.
need people to tell you if you're crazy or not.
Yes. Yeah.
At least
I
I
was
do.
just gonna say. I mean, you know, this is great. You're saying I want to get involved. I want to get involved now and fast and like do it all. And my concern, and I think, you know, this is at least for some of the ideas I've had prior to what I'm doing now. I mean, I felt like something was really good. I just didn't know how to organize my financials in a way that could make it happen. Now, what advice do you have to people that are just trying to figure out a way to financially pursue a dream or seek funding?
Well, seeking funding is very hard. It's something I actually have very little experience in. All of the things that I do have been pretty much self-funded, which is not. I got lucky early on in high school and was able to make a bunch of money selling records, you know, and that was cool. My band made cool music that worked out. That is lucky as hell. Not everyone is in a position to have that just sitting around. So when it comes to starting something new and starting something that you really believe in, the best currency is your sweat equity, how much effort you're willing to put in, and figuring out what that actually means and how much actual money you need. Are you able to do most of the things yourself, or do you need help? That makes things, that answer to that question makes things easier or harder. When it comes to building something that you need actual hard dollars in, you need to start thinking about saving, and saving in a way that, and it's always tough. It's always tough to tell people how to handle money, but earmarking savings, that's like, okay, this $100 a month or $50 a month or $10 a month, this is special. This is a special dollar, and this dollar is going to be spent on this idea at this point. If you identify that you need $5,000 or $1,000 or whatever to start your business, you have to start saving, because it won't just magically happen. You won't appear out of nowhere. You need to set aside what's appropriate for you every month so you don't hurt yourself, but also make sure that that money is special and isn't touched until you're using it for the thing you believe in and the thing you want to start. And it's really hard. It takes a lot of discipline.
Well, what you're
Especially
saying
when,
makes
like-
sense, though, that you're saving while also putting a lot of work into your idea too. So you're essentially working on your idea, but at the same time you're, like you said, earmarking some of your savings.
And that is also a helpful tool. So let's say, Coffee, we're gonna start this potato app, and you're like, Workhorse, we need $1,000. And I'm gonna say, cool, we'll set aside $100 for the next 10 months. And then at the 10-month mark, we're gonna pull the trigger. That gives you and me 10 months to figure out if this idea is good. And if it's bad, guess what? We saved $1,000 that we're not gonna spend on the dumb idea. Maybe we came up with a better idea, or maybe that idea is pure gold and we're ready to go. Either way, you save money, which is kind of cool, but also it gives you time to incubate the idea. Like Jules said, not every idea is a good one. And so you do need to vet it. You do need to think about it. You need to run it through its paces before you are putting actual dollars in. Sweat equity, like I said, is different. If you want to start up, a Twitter that does something in particular, that's free, or a Facebook group that does something in particular, that's free. You can use platforms that are free. Starting YouTube channel is free, but you need gear, so you need to save up for gear. But like, there are ways to get into business, starting your own business, when it's something that's a little bit more IP, intellectual property-ish, where you're creating something that is out there on the web. You don't have to have a ton of money to do it, because sometimes the idea is strong enough and the brand is strong enough that it can like live on its own. But that's a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
So coming back to it, saving money, being smart.
So you mentioned sweat equity a couple of times, and I think that branches really well into the other part of this conversation, and that is tendencies to be a workaholic. And your gamer tag is Workhorse, and you got that for a reason. It's because you work your ass off
Work.
all the time, and sometimes not to your benefit of your health and sanity.
True.
So do you feel that it kind of comes hand in hand, that an entrepreneur is pretty much most likely a workaholic?
Oof. I mean, that's a generalization that I don't think I'm capable of making. In my personal experience, the folks that I've seen start businesses and make it work are working just as hard as the people that are starting businesses that are not working. I think you can work your ass off, but you need a little bit of luck. You need a little bit of great people around you to make it really work. That being said, it's never a small job, no matter what you're doing. If you're starting a new business or picking up an old one, or it's never 9 to 5. And because you're making up for lost time, because you're trying to catch up to where the world is, because the world doesn't know about your idea yet or about your business yet. So you're trying to hustle more than the world will let you. And that's the hard part about it, is it's a race against time. Heroeshearth was a really good example of that. Is like, I always felt like, I still feel like it, that I'm racing against time to raise awareness of its existence, of what it does. Mead Hall was like that, my comic book store. And what it did was, we were only around for so long before word got out of our existence, but it took like 2.5 years for people to actually know we were there. And you're gonna see, like, countless times I've gone to restaurants, to shops where I'm like, oh God, how long has this been here? And they're like, dude, I've been here
Yeah.
for 7 years. I'm like, oh, you know, like,
Yeah.
because you have to put in the time to create those opportunities. And as a result, those opportunities of discovery. And as a result, you end up putting in a ton of time, and it can get away from you easily. I am public enemy number one when it comes to spending way too much time on things and on businesses, because I love it and it's easy to get carried away. But also, it's just a necessity. So if you're going to do it, you got to be ready to go hard with the midnight oil.
Yeah.
When you talk about going hard, I know, you've admitted this publicly, so I think it's okay to say, like, you will work yourself to death if if someone doesn't come and check you.
Yeah.
And so what
You gotta
what
check
kind of
yourself
advice-
before you wreck yourself.
Yeah,
That's
and seriously,
100%
like
the truth.
completely wreck yourself, because like Workhorse, is the kind of person who, when he gets sick, he gets really, really, really sick, because he's just working himself down to the absolute end, and then pulls back, and then the cycle repeats, and we wind up getting to the point where we're like, dude, we can't have you working that many hours a day. It's
Right.
driving yourself crazy in every part of you. So what's the things that you try to do or have been trying to do to battle that?
It's tough, because right now I'm struggling with it very, very much. Since the announcement of HEC being canceled, I quit my like job that I kind of had in November 1st of this last fall, right before BlizzCon. Like, BlizzCon weekend was my hooray! I'm doing HeroesHearth full time, and then a month later they canceled HEC, which really changed the whole fucking game for me.
You really hate to see it.
It was it was a curveball, to say the least. And with that came a whole lot of complications, ranging from what happens to esports in this company, what happens to all of the partners who now lost their game, or they at the time seemingly lost their game. People that wanted to leave and go and stay and change and pivot or not, and it was rough. It was a rough stretch, and as a result, it was all hands on deck at all times. And literally since then, I've worked an incredible amount, and it's been tough because I feel like I'm constantly keeping like the flu at bay, but it has needed to be done in order to get through this patch and come out the other side. I think we really have. I think as a group, as a partnership network with all these great streamers and content creators working together, I think we've all really come out. I feel like I know everyone a lot better. I feel like I think we've gelled really, really wonderfully. But that kind of stuff requires effort and time and work, and it's now I'm coming to a head where I need to make some decisions about what the future looks like, because I can't keep going in my current clip. And for those of you who are wondering how much is Workhorse working right now, Jules and I literally on Thursday night did a whole breakdown. I'm working 91 hours a week right now. And I have been since pretty much January, and it's rough. And I'm not complaining. What I'm saying is you can't do that forever. You can do crazy things. You can run in the red for a bit in order to help make the dream not be a meme, but you need to know when to chill out. And I have hit my point where I'm like, okay, guys, I'm getting less good at my job because I'm working too much. My attention is drifting. All those hours going in, sometimes fatigue is real. And I'm not as young as I used to be, so I need to reel it in. So right now I'm trying to figure out how to dial it back. And some tried and true ways that used to work in the past are bedtimes, setting literal bedtimes for okay, I need to get this 8 hours or else I lose the video game. Eating regularly. Actually, I've been using Weight Watchers since January, and actually I've found that it has kept me really, because it takes a moment every day where you sit and you think about what you ate. You think about like what you're doing and what your diet is like, that actually has been really helpful because it makes me think about and reflect on what I've done today and if I'm taking care of myself appropriately. So
Yeah.
shout out to Weight Watchers. And then
Hashtag not sponsored.
hashtag not
Yeah.
sponsored. Yeah, just
Two of us are
authentic,
on it,
yeah.
but it's awesome.
uh, and then beyond that, knowing when to turn off, having a cutoff time. So, and BP's in chat, she's gonna yell at me because I don't do this, but this is what you should do: is okay, it's 6, done, have to be done. You have to be done, no matter what the hell you're doing. You have to just cut it off, because if you're working 8, 9, 10 hours, okay, that's fine. But if you're pushing 12, 13, 14, you're gonna start being bad at your job.
Yeah.
Just yeah, you can't, like baseball or hockey or football or whatever. Those athletes can't push themselves as hard, like every week, all the time without a break. Same thing with any profession, really. But like when you're relying on yourself to push the energy, you have to know when your energy is just going to burn up, because you need that energy to push the snowball for other people too. So if you're sick or whatever and can't perform, it's not helping anybody. It doesn't help
Yeah.
your equation long term either.
It's so true.
So
And
I've been. I was just gonna say, you know, I know that you've been working from home for some time, and for me, at least, part of the challenge and just kind of overburdening myself has been figuring out a balance between creating like an office space and a home space.
Oh yes.
Can you talk about that at all? How are you working through that?
So it wasn't until okay, well, it's a physical thing. It's all about literally physically having your place of work be different than where you relax. So your living room and your office can't be the same. They were the
Right.
same for me forever, because I lived in like 1-bedroom apartments, and that's just how it was. Like my desk was up against my bed, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is that if you go to your relaxation place and you just sort of start looking over and you see an email come up and you're like, oh, I could probably just answer this email real quick, and 6 hours later it's 2 a.m. and you're like, fuck, my whole night's gone.
Yes.
It's a physical thing. So right now where I am is upstairs from where I spend my relaxation time. So I physically, it's not much. I have to go upstairs, right?
No,
But
that's a big deal, though.
stairs.
Yeah.
But like, if there's a physical, psychological barrier there, it helps a lot. So separation, even if it's just like for a while, it was a sheet on a rod. Like that was enough to create a separation thing for me back in the day. It's tough. So you have to commit to it, and it's tough when, depending on your living situation. Like some people just don't have space for an office, and that, like it wasn't until I was 30 that I was able to have a big enough space where I could do both. But
Yeah.
if you're able to, do it, because it really does help distinguish that separation.
That makes sense.
Do you I think for us too, being gamers and working on computers all day, that gets even harder, because our line of blur between work and downtime is really, it's very, very blurred, because you could be streaming Heroes of the Storm, or maybe you just want to play Heroes of the Storm and you don't want anybody to just be messaging you. So I wind up like saying just literally, I will not answer DMs from this time to this time, or like my phone goes off or notifications go off, and it's hard. It's really hard, and sometimes I slip, but for the most part, it's just like, if you don't give yourself those limits and stick to them, you're never gonna get
that
peace.
is super hard to do. It's
very
easier said
hard.
than done, but I'm working on that myself, and my wife can attest. I'm trying to put my phone, like turn my phone off and stuff like that sometimes, and I'm even putting Battle.net launcher in offline mode occasionally to like play a video game for yourself. Feels good sometimes,
It's difficult. And Coffee, I'd love to hear how you handle this, but like when you are playing for yourself and you're not streaming, and someone who you care about who's a fan whispers you and says, hey, you want to play, but really you just want me time. How do you do that? How do you deal with it? Do you reply back saying like, oh man, I'm just chilling? Like, you just don't want to offend that person because you don't really mean to, but like, how do you handle it?
Well, if I'm in offline mode, they can't send the whisper to begin with, usually.
Touche.
So,
Except for when I see you on the other team.
then yeah, that's true. Then you get a whisper, and you have to balance how you handle that. But yeah, I think that the people closest to me, and especially in my Twitch community, understand that I do need that time desperately sometimes to just play by myself, and I hope that they understand when I tell them, I'd rather just play a game or two by myself. So I hope that they understand that.
Yeah, and I think that's crucial, and you have to sometimes push yourself past your comfort level to say, I need this boundary, or
Yeah.
working for me in the last 5 or 6 months working in an office environment again. Like all of my office stuff stays there. Like I don't have those emails on my phone. I and it's like I can literally just take it and just leave it there and come home, and I don't worry about it until I enter that office again in the morning. And I remember the days where I wasn't doing that, which was not that long ago, and it's just a constant battle, mainly just because you're doing what you love, right? We're all doing things that we love, and that when you can justify it and say, well, it's not that bad because I'm actually happy doing this. Like, I don't mind doing this, but it adds up. It adds up so much.
Yeah. Yeah, you
So
could do
true.
something that you love, 100% of the time and work really, really hard, but still feel tired. It's
Oh yeah.
yeah, and I think that some people don't understand that, obviously, but that's 100% a true thing. But that kind of leads into this question that Triforce just asked in the chat. He says, Dad Horse, how do you manage your stress levels? Do you have any tips about that?
Video games are a great decompressor. I started streaming a lot, actually, just a couple months ago, and I found that to be very decompressing, which is kind of interesting because most folks would think that streaming is very, if it's sort of your occupation, it's definitely work, and I definitely know that, and streaming isn't easy, but I've tried very hard to let that be a time where I can kind of just not vent, but just like blow people up with magic and shoot the shit with my chat, and that has been actually incredible. I found that I need it. I like 3 o'clock rolls around, I'm like, oh, God, I've been working really hard. Let's just fire it up, like that. It feels really good. It's different though for me because having streaming not as my occupation makes it my escape. And so my workload, it's still the grind of doing like normal desk work, and so the escape is important. And Jules and I had a conversation Thursday about like, what would life be like if I just decided to be a streamer or try to be a streamer? What would that be like? And part of me was like, well, maybe it wouldn't be the escape anymore, and I need a different escape. And like, what would that be? Would it be World of Warcraft? No, I mean, like, it's just sort of how do you have to find something to help you decompress. For me, for a long time, it was hockey. Love hockey. Oh my God. I'd play hockey as much as I possibly could until I was unable to play hockey anymore due to health reasons. And it was at that point that actually I discovered Heroes of the Storm. And that was like my big outlet. However, I have a nasty habit of starting businesses out of the things that I love. For instance, Magic the Gathering, I loved and started a comic book store that sold Magic the Gathering cards. Okay. Well, once that became my job, what did I do for decompression? Well, it was hockey. Okay, well, I can't play hockey anymore. Well, I guess I'm going to play Heroes of the Storm. Well, now I'm in love with Heroes of the Storm, and I'm turning that into a business. So now I need something to be decompressing. Well, for a long time, like it goes on.
Yeah.
So there needs to be, I have found that my balance and my stress can be dealt with by knowing what is like, this is the work mode and this is fun relaxation mode. And I definitely need those. I need a 70-30, 80-20 split somewhere in there throughout my day. Otherwise, I'll go bananas.
That is very, very wise.
I promise never to make anime a job. I won't do that. No.
Well, you heard it here first when he begins his next anime studio idea.
It'll be little anime potatoes running
Little
around.
anime potatoes.
Anime potatoes. Oh my god.
The potato game is an anime MMORPG. Just a heads up.
That's what I thought. Well, I
Mhm.
assumed that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
All
think
of
that's
crazy
perfect.
hair and eye patches. Anyway,
So I'm going to ask you to give your advice to anyone out there who has got an idea that's been brewing maybe for a short time or for a long time, and what you would say to them from what you've learned as an entrepreneur.
imagine a reality. Imagine a world where you possibly are doing that for 15 hours a day for 3 months. How do you feel? You're going to be tired. You're going to be exhausted. You're going to be in the red. Your bandwidth is completely tapped. Are you still having fun? And if you're still having fun in this imaginary world, if there's any hesitation at all, don't do it. But if you're still having fun, if you think you're going to have fun, it's probably worth doing. Because businesses are expensive. And if you go in and you invest a bunch of money and you fail, you have to be okay with that. Is it a learning experience? Is it a fun thing? Are you having a great time? Okay, well, it sucks. It sucks that we all lost a bunch of money, but hey, we learned something and we had fun. Let's take Heroeshearth. When HTC was announced that it was canceled, there was a point where we were like, well, should we just be done? And up until that point, let's say we did cancel Heroeshearth and it was closed. Up until then, though, I would have lost an incredible amount of money, but I had made like incredible number of friends, traveled a ton, learned so much. I had like a college education in like 18 months. Like it was nuts. Like losing all that money sucks, but it was worth it because I grew as a person. I grew in friendships. I've learned about friendships. I learned about community. I learned about new business ideas and models and ways to think about things, ways to think about myself, ways to communicate with others. Like, oh my God, even with the horrible losses, it was super worth it. And because of that, because of me being able to look at it and go, okay, I think I'm okay with this as a person, I wanted to keep going and pivot Heroeshearth into the entertainment group that it is now, because what did we gain from all that? All of the cool people. Okay, well, then let's continue with all those cool people on the other side. And so if you can have a good time and sometimes businesses don't work. And in fact, most of the time they don't. But you have to be cool with them not working on the off chance that it doesn't come together.
Exactly. Yeah, because when HTC was canceled, we had this very small window of time where we needed to decide what it was we were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And between all of that and trying to figure out like how we felt about it, and Workhorse going, I've lost a bunch of money. How is this going to turn into what it could be? We had no idea what it was going to be. We had no idea. So sometimes your ideas come from opportunities that come or go. Things happen, and all of a sudden you've got to make a decision, which is an interesting thing as we sit here now, because would we have imagined what we are currently doing? Would we have imagined it being like this?
I mean, maybe not.
Maybe.
I mean, esports is pretty fun, but people are pretty fun too, and there's a way to kind of marry those ideas that are fun and that are exciting with good business. And when those things happen, and when there are good people involved, kind of in it for the right reasons, that's when like really great things happen. And that's, I've been incredibly fortunate, incredibly lucky to be part of those equations most of the time. And I'm excited that knock on wood, things have worked out. And I think Heroeshearth is a great representation of all of these things manifesting themselves into sort of like a little conduit. But like, I think the biggest piece of advice I can have is just make sure you love what you're going to do. Because that's the thing. They make jokes about labors of love, but that's really what it is. You got to be able to lean on yourself and find energy in yourself to push the thing forward. And, sometimes if the idea isn't setting you on fire, okay, that's fine. You'll have a different idea. But if it does, just go for it, because you can just trust yourself and your own energy because you love it.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible when you think about it, when you think about all the things that you've accomplished already. And so I guess, is there an idea, I don't know how to ask this. Is there an idea that you hope happens one day? Is there like things in the hopper where you're just kind of holding on to it and be like, this is going to happen one day, I promise you?
HeroesHearth TV series.
Well, Coffee and I have talked about that.
Yes.
I've written about 40 pages.
It's my absolute dream. I want it to happen so bad.
I don't think a Heroes Hearth TV show is out of the question. I think
Web
that
series.
actually,
Web series.
Web series, yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, we don't. Think
Well, you know what?
TV. Good God.
Let's not.
Yeah. But absolutely, I went to college. I was an English major. Wrote a bunch of screenplays. I wanted to be a writer. You know, Coffee is a great actor. I can fucking belt those high C's like nobody's biz.
High
So-
C's.
So you never know. You know, something could happen. I love writing. That's something that I don't do enough and would love to do. And you know, maybe someday that would be cool. I've been a big fan of the idea of writing a book or a graphic novel or a movie or whatever that creates a universe that people can live in their imaginations, much like, you know, the big ones like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones or whatever. Not like those, but the idea of helping people escape and just drift into this whatever other reality. Writing something like that would be really cool. It would take an incredible amount of time,
Yeah.
an incredible amount of love and effort and energy, and it is creating something like that is incredibly unforgiving, because if it sucks,
Yeah.
you know.
Knowing
So-
you, though, you would find a way to adapt it if it sucked and make it
Make
it a
suck little
parody
less.
or something, right? You would turn it into like, you would adapt it and make it like it intentionally sucks or something, right? I don't know.
Well, that's like my honest answer. My joke answer should have said something like Pogs or something, but
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
most of the fun things that I think we're gonna do as a group we have not thought of yet, and that's kind of the exciting thing about doing stuff, is like suddenly the ideas appear and we're like, cool, let's just roll with it, and that's
Yeah.
the exciting part about doing all of the things we do.
Yeah. Coffee, do you have any more questions for Workhorse?
Well, Metal has a really good question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how does it feel to be a part of a superior group of people that are named Ian?
I mean, I'm named after a famous Ian, so
Mhm.
it's really tough on Google searches, you know.
I'm pretty sure it was Ian McKellen's birthday the other day. Shout out to Ian McKellen.
I've met some shitty Ians, guys. I don't know.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Sorry, Metal.
Can't win them all.
Now the
Can't win
chat
'em all.
room's popping with some questions for you.
Oh, sure.
Xander wants to know, I know Workhorse was in a band. How did he deal with leaving it behind, and any thoughts of doing something like that again?
It was tough. We made a bunch of records that were like good, sort of. I mean, like we were a middling, average indie rock band. I leaving it all behind came on during the period of time where I knew I didn't have like an X factor. Because like sometimes, that sounds terrible saying out loud, but like, coming back to one of my original things, which is like, hey, I can see in other people, their gifts, what I feel like I can like give them resources to do something amazing, right? That was 45 minutes ago. I looked at myself objectively as hard as I could for a while after being given a bunch of resources by a big fatty label, and was like, you know, I think I just don't have that top tier thing that would put us on the map. And once I was honest about that, it's really weird. I started writing better music and having a lot more fun because I was being honest with myself, not trying to be something I wasn't. And it was at that point that I became okay with letting it go, because I was creating music that I was like really very proud of. It wasn't like me reaching for the brass ring shit, but it was stuff that like made me go, yeah, right, yeah, and that's what you want to do when you're a band, when you're an artist. For many years, I would get emails or DMs or whatever, still, of people saying, how do I get my band? How do I get huge as an artist or as a band dude or whatever? And like the first, you're already doing it wrong. You can't do it. You can't do it if you're trying to get huge or rich or whatever. Right. And this goes back to starting a business, which is you have to go into it because you're fucking on fire. You're in love with it. You have to do it. Otherwise, you're gonna die. Like you have to. That's the feel behind it. And if you're going in it thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna be a huge," it's just not right because those odds are so slim. Anyway, how did I become cool with it? Time.
That's such a universal truth. I just want to piggyback off that. Is that when people say they want to get into entertainment because they want to be famous, it's one of those things where you got to shake your head because
you're not gonna,
right? It's like if you want to get into entertainment to do what you love, make a living telling stories, that's different. But people that say they want to become famous, it just, you gotta shake your head because it's just not gonna work out for that person. I don't think.
Yeah.
It's just so the odds are so small, and like even if you're so many once in a generation talents have gone overlooked because they weren't in the right place at the right time. It's actually staggering to think about all the people that live somewhere that you've never heard of them, but they can do things that are incredible, but you'll never know because they weren't there at the time that you were looking for that. It's really tough. So you gotta just fucking love it. If you love it, then who cares? You're winning already.
Right.
Exactly. Kit Falbo is asking, what is the last good book you read? Do you have time to read?
I was reading on the plane a little bit ago, Neil deGrasse Tyson's Astrophysics for People Who Don't Have Time book. And that was really, really nice. I had a great time reading it. When I was younger, I really wanted to be an astrophysicist because I love Star Trek. And then I became an English major, so go fucking figure. I don't know.
I was an English minor and a psych major. It's like, where does it go?
What did you think of the Picard trailer that just came out recently?
I haven't watched it.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I'm going to watch it.
No?
I think I'm going to just watch the first
watch
episode.
it when it happens. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm being real weird about it. I'm being really weird. I don't know why I'm being so weird about it. Actually, I do know why. Because I love Star Trek and I love Picard.
Yeah.
I love Patrick Stewart.
Oh, yeah.
And
how can you not like Patrick Stewart?
So I've gotten in this habit of going to movies or playing video games with knowing nothing about them. And it's incredible. It's an incredible feeling just to let it wash over you and you just embrace, okay, whatever's going to happen. I'm just here and I'm just accepting this amazing story that's happening. I think I want to do that with Picard, which will be tough because it's television and that's just everywhere. But I'm going to try.
I have a funny little story about Patrick Stewart real fast, and then we'll finish up with these questions. So my cousin used to be Patrick Stewart's personal assistant, and and then there was a time when he was working on something very timely. It was an emergency for Patrick, and it's crunch time. There's a deadline. My cousin's in the upstairs. Patrick is downstairs in the kitchen. Quite a large place, and out of nowhere, my cousin just hears my cousin's name is Judd. Out of nowhere, he just hears Judson. And he like comes to the balcony to look down into the foyer, and Patrick Stewart is just there holding this little bag, and he goes, "Would you like a gumdrop?" It's like I don't know why it's so funny to me, but it's just, I guess it's just, I don't know, it just cracks me up every time.
That is classic, and
Judson,
I love it.
would you like a gumdrop? I don't know, it's just too much.
I'd probably die.
Yeah,
I'd probably
right.
die.
Like,
I'm just
what
fuck
world
dead.
does my cousin live in where Patrick Stewart's asking him if
That's
he wants a gum
fantastic.
drop? Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
That is excellent. Shy on Twitch asks, where do you see yourself in 10 years, or where you dream of, wish to see yourself in 10 years?
Ooh. Right now, I'm at a very interesting transition point, so I can't even tell you where that would be. I actually really love where I am right now, and so I'm finding it difficult to figure out what the next thing is because I'm having a lot of fun. Hopefully working less, hopefully going on vacation occasionally, and hopefully GM number 1.
Oh, see?
Wow.
Aspirations, I love it.
Pog.
Just let me get the diamond, please.
You're getting so close too. It's just like
Been
it's
platform
right
for
there.
3 weeks.
Half Note asks, are you secretly working on a Heroes Hearth merch song? That would be super.
Merch song?
Yeah.
Is that what the question was?
Merch song.
Yeah, like should we
song?
come up with like a
Like a-
Heroes
like a
Hearth
jingle?
theme song?
Oh, like a little
ditty?
jingle.
Yeah.
Buy our merch, don't besmirch. Heroes Hearth, let's buy our merch. Something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we just wrote it.
Yeah. I said besmirch. I don't really know what else rhymes with
I
merch.
love that's a good word.
Yeah.
How often do we get to use besmirch in a sentence?
It's a
Yeah,
at
really
all?
good word.
Oh man, I loved this conversation. I think it was necessary and helpful, and I learned. I've known you for a year, or roughly a year. It feels like longer, but I learned something new every time we have these conversations. I learned something new about you, which is amazing. I love
Because
it.
I have lots of secrets.
He has so many stories, you guys.
Secrets.
It's amazing to listen to the stories.
I
It's
got some weird ones.
I think he's the one that should start a podcast with all these stories.
I know.
to
I've been
tell.
trying to get him to do it. So you just have to get the right thing for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's just shrugging with his hands up in the air, like I don't know. Oh my gosh! So where can people find your stream, your thoughts on social media? Let's give all the places where they can hunt you down and spend more time with you.
So I have just started again doing the social media thing just 2 months ago. So you can find me Workhorse HHE, which stands for Workhorse Heroes Hearth Esports / Entertainment. You can find me on Twitter and on Twitch. Those are my 2 jams. I'm on those a lot. So Twitter is really good. I'm trying to tweet more frequently, but that's where the conversation's kind of happening. And then on Twitch, I stream 5 days a week. So come and stop in. I yell a lot and I listen to K-pop constantly.
It's a pretty cool combination. Heroes of the Storm play, K-pop, and some fun transition screens that you may not expect.
Yeah. Patrick Stewart's probably in a couple of them.
I think he is.
Yeah.
The head and the hands one is
Too
for sure
much.
in there.
I have one of coffee now.
Would you like a gumdrop?
Coffee
You
doesn't know
do?
this, but I have one of coffee.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
Yeah.
freaking
I'm
Barb,
gonna
man.
try to use it when you're not in my chat,
Yeah,
and so that it will just be elusive for like a year.
I'll
You're
just
like,
never
"I saw
see it.
Coffee's amazing transition. He's like, what? Like,
Wow.
yeah.
We have to just do it when you're lurking, Coffee. So just be there, but don't tell him you're there.
This is what happens when Barb, my secretary, just starts making multi-million-dollar contracts behind my back, right? She
Yeah.
just forges my signature.
I have Coffee signed for an 85 picture deal. I don't even
Unbelievable.
know if she read it.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. She probably
It was a
didn't read
typo. It was a typo, and I just got it. So
it. Wow.
85 pictures,
I'm locked in.
locked in.
Yep.
Get working, buddy. You got stuff to do.
Work.
Speaking of stuff to do, there is something you guys need to do out there, and that is get our t-shirt. It's on pre-order right now, set up by the lovely Workhorse, and the design by the amazing Breakfast Princess. And it is the Jules and Coffee t-shirt, which is showing up on our screen right now if you're watching the VOD. If you are not, if you're listening to the podcast version, it's our slogan, "We're glad you're here," in a nice bright blue, light blue color and pink accents. It's gorgeous. It's awesome. You got to get it. And there's a link here. If you don't know, if you're listening to the podcast and you don't know where to get to, go to heroeshearth.com and click on the store. And you'll see it there. the Jules and Coffee. I think we've got one more week, and then it's
Yes.
going into production. So
Yes, and you
So
can
go get
also
it.
watch my stream. I'm going to be giving away some on my stream. So,
yes,
yeah. And we should give some away here as well, I
We
think.
And
will.
I'm
for
gonna
sure.
give some away too.
Okay.
Yay! Yes, and
Uh,
I've already ordered mine, so I'll be sporting that on the next possible time. I think they'll be ready in July. Made by Workhorse's own printing company. I mean, we talked about it on the show. He's making these things as well.
Right.
So
Not
please,
by
please.
hand, not me. No,
Not
talented
by hand.
professionals are doing it, not me.
So buy it. You help us. You help Heroes Hearth. We thank you so much for that. And next week, we have another guest because there's a really important topic that we have to talk about. And we have a really awesome guest who's going to do it. We have Ramadi MC, the esports psychologist, joining us next week to talk about that recent announcement of the internet gaming disorder.
Big news, actually.
Yeah, you guys have stuff to say. Ramadi has stuff to say about it. We're having him on next week. You don't want to miss this episode because we're going to really get into the nuts and bolts and the things that you guys will be better equipped to help get rid of all of those naysayers who come after you and say, gamers and disorders and stuff like that. He's there to combat it all.
Ramadi's
excited.
incredible, so
He really
definitely
is.
do not miss that.
Yes, so that will be next week on Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Central. Workhorse, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. You are amazing. I can't remember the time when it was when you were afraid to actually come onto a podcast. That's so long gone by now because you are the most incredible guest.
Thanks for having me, guys.
spent- I fought how long to get you onto Heroes News and
Like 9 months.
maybe.
And
It
here
was
he
a long
is.
time.
Second podcast.
Yeah. Ooh.
And please go and tell him how amazing he is because he really is that good.
Thanks, Jules. Appreciate it.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Jules and Coffee Hour. We hope you've enjoyed this time by the fire. We get to play this lovely music and take us out like this.
Want to contact the show? You can email us at podcast@heroeshearth.com. And if you want to connect with us on Twitter, you can find me at coffeeclub_TV. And you can find Jules at JulesRPG. You can also use those handles to follow our personal streams on Twitch as well, so you can be notified when we go live.
You can join us for those live broadcasts like you are right now at twitch.tv/HeroesHearth on Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. Central, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Find us in podcast form on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, and more.
If you like the show and would like to support the great entertainment brought to you by Heroes Hearth, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/HeroesHearth.
And we thank you all for joining us today. Until next time, we're glad you're here.